Hi everyone, I'm Courtney. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about the snacking versus meals topic, but I want to talk about it from like a food addiction emotional standpoint. And the idea for this video came along from a client who said to me, she said, I feel like I just am sort of endlessly snacking and I never really make real meals. Like, do you think that there's something in that emotionally? Like, why would I do that, right? And there definitely is. And I've been through this myself with my relationship with food and my food addiction. So what I was telling her is that yes, there is. And what we need to look at here is the fact that a lot of times those of us that have struggled with weight and food, we feel like food is the enemy. So we feel like, I shouldn't be eating food. Food is what is causing my problems. I need to create distance between me and food. I need to make food less of a thing in my life. And what that can end up meaning is that we are snacking all the time on stuff that's like not really that satisfying, and we're rarely having real meals, especially meals that are like healthy, well balanced, but still really satiating. And a lot of times people who are in this kind of place also have these cycles where they're always snacking on stuff that like isn't really that sort of nourishing. Like they're just eating bits and bobs of things. And then eventually they get kind of tired of it, and I think it's like that part of us that kicks in and is like, I think I'd like an actual meal that makes me feel like a real human. And so then what they'll do though is, because they feel like they're not really supposed to be eating, they kind of feel like, well, if I am gonna eat, I might as well make it count. And so then that's when they go for like the whole pizza or the fast food or like the something that's like super junk foody. And they tend to often cycle between like small snacks frequently that aren't very satisfying, and then the compensatory or rebellious like big meal, which is usually not that healthy. But they're often not really having this thing where they like plan a good recipe that's healthy, make it, legitimize it, eat it in a balanced way, right? And sit down and really enjoy it. And so that is often a reason why we feel like it's not allowed, like that's not what I should be doing. And yet it actually would be something that would actually help heal food addiction. Because the thing is that you need to keep honoring yourself. You need to keep treating yourself like a real human, no matter what your weight or your food situation is. It's better for your health to eat, well-balanced meals. It's not as good to be snacking lots, especially if what you're snacking on isn't as healthy. And it's obviously not good to have compensatory, like, kind of binges that we have as well. And so we often need to start working through emotions around fear, where we feel like if I eat that way, if I live that way, I'm never going to reach my food goals, my weight goals. Like I'm never going to reach them if I eat real meals, because like I'm not supposed to be eating. Like food is the enemy, right? So we often need to work through some fear that we have that eating these balanced meals will never get us to where we want to go. There's also a lot of emotion a lot of people have around, I don't deserve to sit down and like have real meals. Like, look at my weight, look at my body, look at what I need to not eat. I don't deserve to do that. It can even bring up shame when you try to do it. It can bring up these almost like imposter feeling kind of thing. Like, this isn't for me. This isn't, I don't deserve this. And so it can bring up some pretty strong emotions. And I remember when I first read about some of the, I read a lot of books when I was first starting out by Janine Roth, who's an author, and she would talk about how when you're trying to heal food addiction, you need to, have these kind of like rules with yourself where you don't eat standing up at the fridge, you don't eat standing up at the pantry, you sit down, you honor yourself, you make a real well-rounded, healthy meal that is flavorful and satisfying. And you have like, she would encourage people to like find a nice, placemat that you really love, and beautiful cutlery and bowls, and put flowers on the table, and like really make it this thing that honors yourself. And I had the reaction I think a lot of people who struggle with weight and food have when they hear this idea. I read that and I was like, me? Like, I can't do that. Like, I need to like not eat ever. Like, that's what I need to do. Like, I could never do this. I felt, and then, so I had all this resistance to it. And then I started actually trying it. I was like, okay, well, I was pretty much at that point in my food addiction journey, I was like willing to try anything as an approach. And so I was like, okay, I'll try it. So I tried doing that kind of approach of like eating an actual real meal that wasn't, that wasn't an accidental meal because I was invited to dinner, but something that I actually said, like, I'm going to legitimize this. I'm going to make this and I'm going to eat it. So I tried doing that, and I did the whole 9 yards with the placemat and the flowers and things like that. And I felt so much shame and fear about those things I mentioned. So much shame that, like, I don't deserve this. Like, I need to lose weight. I have this binge eating. I don't deserve food. Like, food is bad, and I'm terrified of food. And I'm terrified of what eating food is going to do. Which is weird because I was eating food. In fact, I was binging a lot of the time, and I was eating way too much food. But, like, I was afraid of legitimizing food. I was afraid of honoring myself. I was afraid of actually being like, I'm a human who can eat actually nourishing meals rather than just eating like, these really, in the end, like unnourishing kind of snacks or binges that I would do. And I felt so, like, there was so much emotion. And I think it's been a lot of years, but I think I probably had some cries and, frustration feelings about the whole thing and fear and stuff like that. But I think it's such an important thing to look at in the process of healing food addiction, is like that we need to stop looking at it like the solution is just to try to not eat, or the solution is just to like snack all the time and eat as little as possible, and actually work through the emotions that prevent us from feeling like it's okay to have well-rounded meals. And I'm not saying that we should get comfortable in eating that clearly has some addictive components. So what I mean by that is like, if we are eating some real meals, but we're eating like way too much food, or we're eating when we're not hungry, or there's some addictive component to it, then obviously we want to keep working at that. We want to keep chipping away at the parts of it that are addictive. But there's such a common trend, in this area with people, and so I think it's important to talk about. I have seen over the years that a lot of the times, well, yeah, pretty much everybody that I can think of who has legitimately healed some amount of their food addiction, it's interesting how we all seem to move from being people who are terrified of food and don't want to make proper meals, and into people who do that more, And I know for me now, it feels like whenever I snack, because I do sometimes still fall into that like mindset a little bit, or habit, but it feels like I'm not really taking care of myself. It feels like I'm not really loving myself. It feels like I'm living in fear, and I'm living in, like, I'm falling back into these kind of like harsh ways of treating myself. And it feels like the better thing to do is, to honor myself with actual real meals that I actually sit down and eat. And now it's a funny thing, because now I'm a little bit like, I'm almost a little sensitive to it. So I feel like if I'm in a situation where the situation dictates that I'm supposed to like eat fast, or I'm supposed to be standing up, or I'm supposed to be moving, I kind of feel uncomfortable and kind of like, no, I really want to like be able to enjoy my food when I eat it. So I'll even have times now while I'll wait until I'm at a later situation where I'm actually like able to get a proper meal, or I'll wait until at least I can kind of sit down in some and have a bit of time, rather than doing it. as much like on the run and I still sometimes do have those compulsive things where I will have something on the run, but there's just more times where I kind of like clock onto that feeling of like, hey, snacking all the time doesn't feel like that self-loving. It feels more self-loving to, really be intentional about the recipes I'm going to make and shopping for them and spending the time to make them and taking the time to eat them as well. And then the last thing I wanted to say is about this, kind of going back to what I was saying before about the shame and the imposter syndrome and the like, I don't deserve this kind of feeling, is a lot of us, for like those emotions, for a lot of us actually link back to childhood stuff and how our parents or family or other people in our childhood really treated ourselves or other people around weight and food. Because when we have this like deep shame that we feel like we shouldn't be eating, or the shame about our bodies kind of gets triggered in all of this, it's typically because someone made us feel that way. So we're essentially mimicking what someone taught us to do in terms of those projections. So I've had a lot of clients, for example, who are similar to me in the sense that they've had this issue with the snacking and binging thing, and not eating real meals. And when I get to know them and their childhood, it's very similar to mine in the sense of there's a lot of pressure, expectations, standards around eating and around body image, and it creates a lot of these feelings of like, I don't deserve to really like enjoy food, especially while I still have weight. I don't deserve that, I need to, yeah, just these kind of shame feelings. So I would encourage you to look at that as well. What projections you get from your parents around weight, around food. What projections did you get when you were a kid? I've talked about this in some other videos about body image. But looking at those projections and looking at who might still project that at you. Because sometimes when we're trying to break this pattern and honor ourselves more with the way that we're eating, you can have people in your surroundings, that, maybe your parents or maybe friends or maybe your spouse who could project at you, like, sort of like, who are you to eat whenever you've got that kind of weight, And sometimes they can be quite harsh with those projections as well. And so, it is like worth looking at where that shame and imposter syndrome and where these emotions around body and image and eating actually come from. Because I know, yeah, that was true for me. It's like when I was overweight, if I ate sort of like a proper meal in front of my family, they didn't say anything, but I felt like they were basically like looking at me like, why are you eating? You need to lose weight because being overweight is pathetic and awful and makes you worth less as a person. So you need to fix that quickly, and eating is not the way you're going to do that, right? And so obviously the mindset that I had around all that was a product of those kinds of projections around food and around people who were overweight that had come at me and that I had observed in my family for my whole life, right? So I recommend looking at it from that level as well, and really do some experimentation around legitimizing eating, make proper meals, make nourishing meals. They still should be healthy, but really make proper meals and let yourself properly enjoy it and feel through the emotions that come up with it. And you may find that even while you do that, you can heal food addiction and you can reach weight loss goals that are healthy for your physiology. And when I say maybe, you definitely can do it that way. So let me know if you have any questions on this, and I can always make future videos explaining any more aspects of it. Hope you all have a good day, and I've got more info if you want to contact me at my website, which is courtneypool.com. All right, bye everybody.